After my husband passed, I inherited an old storage garage while my son got a 3-bedroom condo in one of Atlanta's finest neighborhoods. When he found out, he put me out of my own home with the words, "You're just a useless old woman." I had nowhere to go, so I decided to spend the night in that very garage. But when I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I froze. I couldn't breathe. What I saw in there changed my life forever. 68 years old, the age when you figure life's done surprising you. Lord, how wrong I was. There I stood in front of rusty industrial gates off I-285, my fingers trembling so bad I could barely get the key in the lock. Ringing in my ears were the words of my only child, sharp as a sermon you don't want to hear. "You're just a useless old woman, Mama. What would you ever do with a real inheritance?" 3 weeks ago, I buried my husband. 42 years we walked that road together. 42 years of Sunday morning service and late night talks at the kitchen table, raising a child and building something of our own from nothing. And then it all ended in a stuffy lawyer's office on Peachtree Street, where a will was read that turned my whole world upside down.
Mr. Cornelius Browning had been our family attorney for nearly 20 years, a distinguished man, silver at the temples, thin-framed glasses, a voice that made you feel like no matter what happened, things would work themselves out. But the day he called us into his office, there was something different in his eyes. Caution, compassion. I sat in my black dress, the same one I'd worn standing over Reginald's casket. Beside me sat my son Trayvon, perfect suit, not a hair out of place. He stared at the floor, and I kept telling myself, it's hard for him. He's grieving just like I am. Mr. Browning slowly removed his glasses, wiped them with a cloth, and cleared his throat, that pause that always comes before something you aren't ready to hear. "Before we begin," he said, choosing every word carefully, "I want to assure you both, this document is legally airtight and reflects exactly the final wishes of Reginald James Washington. He reviewed it multiple times, made his own corrections, and was absolutely certain of every word." Those words were supposed to comfort me. Instead, a chill ran down my spine. Why say all that unless something complicated was coming? "Accordingly," he continued, unfolding the documents, "pursuant to the last will and testament of Reginald James Washington, his son Trayvon Marcus Washington is to receive a 2,200 square foot condominium in the Buckhead district of Atlanta, along with the primary investment portfolio, stocks, bonds, and liquid assets totaling—" He named the number, the kind of number that means you never have to worry again. Trayvon almost imperceptibly straightened in his chair. "To his beloved wife, Dorothy May Washington," Mr. Browning's voice dropped lower, "is bequeathed the property located at 4718 Industrial Parkway, Unit 20, College Park, Georgia, a storage unit with all contents therein."
The silence in that office was so thick you could almost touch it. A storage unit. After 42 years of marriage, a storage unit in an industrial park. I couldn't make sense of it at first. My thoughts were tangled and the words fell apart, refusing to form any clear meaning. Where was I supposed to live? What was I supposed to do? Had Reginald truly wanted this? Trayvon's face shifted for just a moment, and I caught that look, a mixture of relief and triumph. He placed his hand on my shoulder and squeezed with that performative tenderness people use when they know they're being watched. "Don't worry, Mama. I'll take care of you. Everything's going to be fine." He sounded so sure of himself, I almost believed him. Almost. Mr. Browning handed me an envelope containing the keys and the deed to the storage unit. I took it on autopilot, still numb, still trying to understand what had just happened to my life. Trevon drove me home, to that brick colonial on Cascade Road in southwest Atlanta, where Reginald and I had lived for 15 years. Big windows, hardwood floors, a magnolia tree out front that bloomed every April. I called it home. 15 years of memory in every corner. Reginald on the back porch with a glass of sweet tea, the two of us watching the grandchildren at Christmas, the smell of the kitchen on Sunday morning. We'd barely crossed the threshold when he set my suitcase down in the foyer, just set it there, and took a step back. "Mama, I think you need to find somewhere else to stay," he said in that businesslike tone he uses with his employees. "Contractors are coming tomorrow. We're starting the renovation." My knees nearly gave out. "What do you mean? This is my home, mine and your father's." "Was," he cut back, still not meeting my eyes. "The will is clear. This is my property now. I need to rebuild the whole place, make a proper home office. I need the space." "And where am I supposed to be?" I asked, and even I could hear how lost that sounded. Not angry, just lost. Trevon shrugged, the kind of shrug that says a question doesn't concern you. "Stay with Aunt Claudette, or use that storage unit you got." He smirked, and there wasn't a drop of warmth in it. "What would you even need anything serious for, Mama? What would you do with a real inheritance?" Something inside me broke. The floor seemed to slip out from under my feet, and I couldn't fully comprehend what he was saying. Then he said the words I carried inside me like a stone for a long time after. "You're just a useless old woman, Mama. What would you have done with a real inheritance? Daddy knew that. That's why he left you what suits you." I didn't say a word. I picked up my suitcase, my purse, the envelope with the storage key, and I walked out of the house I'd lived in for 15 years. Industrial Parkway is the kind of part of town that looks forgotten. Concrete, chain link fences, floodlights on poles. I found Unit 20 by the number. From outside, nothing special. Peeling gray paint, a rusty lock, a cloudy little window up under the eaves, the kind of place where you put things you don't need anymore. The key went in stiff, like it was fighting me. The door groaned its way up. I turned on my phone's flashlight and stepped inside. Clean concrete floor, recessed lighting in the ceiling, quality, directed, shelving units along the walls, neat and organized. On the panel by the door, a green light blinked steady, security system active. Cool air drifted from the vents, climate control holding a constant temperature. And in the middle, 3 silhouettes under heavy covers, standing in a row, patient and still, like something waiting to be found. I walked to the nearest one. The cover was soft to the touch, thick, expensive fabric. I grabbed the edge and pulled. The cloth slid off slow with a quiet whisper. Lord have mercy. It was a 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback, cherry red, the kind you see in the movies and think, nobody actually has one of those. Chrome details polished to a mirror shine. The headlights looked back at me like 2 calm eyes, and in the curve of the hood, reflected perfectly, was a tired woman in a black dress holding a flashlight whose life had just been turned inside out. "Lord Jesus," I whispered, and my hand reached out for the metal before I could stop myself. "Reginald, what did you do?" In 42 years, Reginald James Washington had never once spoken to me about collector cars. We drove practical vehicles, reliable, the kind that get you from A to B without breaking the bank. Where had this come from? When? On the wall to the right, taped up straight and neat, hung a white envelope, my name on the front, his handwriting clear as ever. My hands were shaking as I took it down from the wall. I lowered myself onto a low leather bench along the wall, and only then noticed it wasn't a random bench. Someone had placed it there on purpose. Someone knew I'd need a place to sit down. I opened the envelope, several pages written in Reginald's familiar hand.
My Dorothy, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you found what I called my last gift to you. I'm asking you to forgive me for this secret. I wasn't hiding it from you. I was protecting what I was building for your future. 6 years ago, the doctors gave me a diagnosis. They said maybe 5 years. I lived a year longer than they expected, but I understood. Our time isn't infinite, and I had an obligation to make sure that when I was gone, you wouldn't be dependent on anyone, that you would be free. I know you're sitting there right now asking yourself why the will is what it is, why Trevin got the condo and the portfolio and you got a storage unit in College Park. Baby, that decision cost me more sleepless nights than I can count. Over the last few years, I watched our son become someone I didn't always recognize. That bright, driven boy we raised together had gotten hard somewhere along the way. He started talking to you like your feelings didn't matter, like your opinion wasn't worth hearing. I heard it. I heard it when he thought I wasn't paying attention, and I was scared. Scared that if I split things evenly, he'd find a way to manage your half in your best interests. He likes that kind of language, but in reality, under his control. So I set everything up so that from the outside it would look one way, but the truth would be something else. Trevin got the prestige, the address, the showcase, the status, and what you're looking at right now is the real inheritance. These 3 cars together are worth approximately $2.5 million. The documents for each one, titles, provenance history, inspection records, are in a leather portfolio next to each car. You'll also find the contact information for Marcus Weber. He managed this collection for me. He's trustworthy. He knows you might call. He'll help you with whatever you decide. Sell, insure, donate to a museum, or keep them. That is entirely your choice. But the cars aren't the whole story. At the back of the unit, there's a safe, behind the frame with the view of Auburn Avenue. The combination is our anniversary date. Inside, documents on several properties I acquired over the last 6 years. Everything is structured through a trust in such a way that the moment I died, it all transferred directly into your name. No probate, no delays, no one's permission required. There are also account statements and investment instructions that should provide you with stable income for the rest of your life and beyond. You're probably wondering why I made all of this so complicated instead of just doing it plainly and directly. Because I wanted to give Trevon a chance to become the man we raised him to be. Maybe receiving what he got and taking on responsibility for you would have made him into the son you deserve to have. If that happened, if he did right by you, if he treated you the way a son ought to treat his mother, you'd always have the ability to share some of this with him. That would be your choice, made freely. But if the other side showed itself, and God knows I was afraid it would, then what I built here would be your shield, your independence, your ability to never have to ask anyone for anything. This is yours, Dorothy, all of it. You earned it. I love you. I always have. Reginald. I sat there a long time, pressing those pages to my chest. The tears came, but quietly. Not that sharp, tearing grief from the funeral, but something slower and deeper, like water finding its level. Not self-pity, not bitterness, something closer to awe. He'd seen everything, heard everything. He understood what I'd been working so hard not to see. Reginald knew how Trevon spoke to me. He knew what was coming, and he built me a way out. I got up and walked to the back of the space, found the frame with the view of Auburn Avenue, that famous street in the heart of Black Atlanta where Dr. King was born and Ebenezer Baptist Church still stands, where Black business once built itself up from nothing. Reginald had always loved that image. Now I understood why. Behind the frame, recessed in the wall, was a small safe. I entered our anniversary. It opened without a sound. Inside, a thick brown accordion folder and several labeled flash drives. On the front of the folder, typed out clearly and simply, Estate of Reginald James Washington, complete asset register for Dorothy Mae Washington. I went back to the bench and opened it. Page after page, figures, addresses, property descriptions, 4 rental units in Atlanta's West End neighborhood, commercial retail space in Stone Mountain, a partnership stake in a small vineyard in Napa Valley, California, stocks and bonds, shares in 2 private real estate investment funds. A whole world Reginald had been building in silence while I was cooking Sunday dinner, watering the windowsill plants, and figuring he was just tired lately. On one of the pages, at the bottom, handwritten, Marcus Weber, storage, appraisal, sale. Good man, he'll deal with you straight. Below that, a phone number. I got out my phone. My finger hovered over the screen. To call meant saying, yes, this is real. Yes, this is my life now. Yes, I can handle this. I pressed call. He picked up on the second ring, voice calm and steady. Mrs. Washington, I've been expecting your call. Please accept my deepest condolences. Thank you, Mr. Weber. I found the storage unit, found everything. I need some help. I can be there within 2 hours. Would that work for you? Yes, I'll be right here. While I waited, I looked around more carefully. Along the far wall, a narrow door. Behind it, a small room. Shower, sink, a mirror without a single crack. Next to it, a cabinet with a fresh bath towel, a robe, toiletries, everything still in sealed packaging, all of it chosen with care. Near the entrance to the office area, a small refrigerator stocked with bottled water and a few snacks, an electric kettle, a box of paper cups, a rack with 2 blouses, slacks, and a cardigan, all my size, tags still on. You thought of everything, didn't you, Reginald? I said out loud. I took a shower, changed into a clean blouse, made myself some tea, and for the first time in days, maybe longer, I felt something inside me settle, like I was coming back to myself. Marcus Weber arrived in a dark navy Lincoln, right on time, a man in his early 50s, unhurried in his movements, wearing a well-cut jacket the color of good wood. He shook my hand the way people do when they mean it. We sat in the office area. I poured him coffee from a thermos I'd found in the cabinet. Your husband began assembling this collection about 6 years ago, Marcus started, opening a folder. Very methodically, every car verified, ownership history, mechanical condition, documented chain of title, no sketchy auctions, no murky provenance. He called cars like these anchor pieces, the kind that hold their value in any market. But why cars? I couldn't help asking. Reginald never. We drove practical cars our whole lives, the kind that got you where you were going. He explained his thinking to me once, said Marcus with a slight smile. He said, cars are honest. You can see them, touch them, know what you've got. They're engineering and history and craftsmanship all at once, and still an asset, not just a number on paper. He wanted to leave you something real, something no one could challenge in court. We walked down the row together. Marcus lifted each cover slightly, pointing out details, panel gaps, chrome work, original factory markings.
At each car, a leather portfolio with documents, title, insurance, independent appraisal. Not a collection thrown together on a whim, but a legacy built one piece at a time. Back at the table, Marcus laid out the numbers plainly and without fanfare. At current market, the 3 cars together are worth between $2.5 and $3 million. The Mustang alone has appreciated considerably. It's one of the most cleanly documented examples I've ever seen. There's no rush. Storage and maintenance are paid up for 5 years. You can sell all 3, keep one, donate one to a museum, or hold the whole collection and watch it grow. All options are open. I'm not ready to decide anything yet, I admitted. I can't quite take in how my whole world turned over in a single day. That's completely understandable, he said, and it wasn't professional courtesy in his voice. It was real human warmth. I'll be here when you're ready for the next step. Take your time. After Marcus left, the space got very quiet. I sat there alone with the hum of the climate system and one clear thought. Last night, I figured I was nearly homeless. Today, I was a woman with choices. That was terrifying, and that was freedom, both at once. That night, I slept on the couch under a blanket from the cabinet. The hum of the ventilation kept the same slow rhythm as my heart, which for the first time in weeks wasn't racing. In the morning, flipping further through the folder, I came across a page that stopped my breath. Residential property, Savannah, Georgia, a historic cottage near Forsyth Park, 2 blocks from the riverfront. Purchased 3 years ago. Furnished and maintained, move-in ready. Keys in a sealed envelope inside the folder. I found the envelope. On the key ring, a small tag. It read, Forsyth Park, yours. I have a home, I said out loud to no one. Not a storage unit, not go stay with Auntie, a real home with my name on the deed. That same evening, I headed south on I-16. Savannah welcomed me the way only Savannah can. Spanish moss hanging low over the live oaks, the air warm and thick, heavy with salt and honeysuckle. I reached the cottage at dusk. Wrought iron gate, brick pathway, a little garden someone had been keeping up. The key slipped into the lock easy. The door swung open like it recognized me. Inside was the kind of quiet that holds you. A living room with a fireplace, built-in shelves lined with books, not decorative, real ones, the kind that have been read. Hardwood floors, warm rugs, a deep armchair by the window that made you want to sit down and stay. A kitchen with a round table in the corner where mornings would be slow and good. A bedroom with glass doors opening onto a back porch, and beyond the porch, the soft lights of the city and the distant glimmer of the Savannah River. But what finally broke me was a small room off the living room, a study. Above the writing desk hung a print, the historic district of Savannah, the squares and church steeples, afternoon light falling in gold. Reginald and I had walked those squares on our 30th anniversary. He held my hand the whole way and told me that if he had to start all over again, he'd choose me on day 1, same as he did back then. I sat down in the chair at that desk and cried, not hard, quietly, with that releasing kind of cry that means I'm finally safe. Reginald had made all of this with his own hands, his own planning, his own love. The light, the books, the porch, the chair outside the window. There was a knock at the door, polite, unhurried. On the porch stood a woman close to my age, maybe a touch older, sturdy and straight-backed, with a crown of silver locks and warm, direct eyes. In her hands, a covered dish. "Good evening, baby. You must be Dorothy. I'm Luella. I live 3 houses down. Reginald asked me to stop by when you arrived. Didn't want to intrude, but I thought nobody ought to be figuring out dinner alone on their first night in a new place. You knew him? A little. He came by here a few times over the years, walked through the house with me, talked about which colors would feel right, asked about the neighborhood, whether it was safe, what kind of people, whether there was a good church nearby. He cared deeply about this place, feeling like somewhere you'd want to come home to, and he asked me not to call you ahead of time. Let her find her own way, he said. She smiled. He was a good man. Yes, I said, and for the first time since the funeral, those words didn't break me. I brought red rice and chicken, said Luella, my grandmother's recipe. If you want company, I'll stay a while. If you need to be alone, I'll understand. No hard feelings either way. Please stay, I said. I could really use another voice right now. We sat at that round kitchen table and talked the way Black women of a certain age know how to talk, easy and honest, no pretense, about how long she'd lived in Savannah, how her husband passed 11 years ago, how that first year without him she barely knew what to do with herself, about church, about children, about what it means to find yourself standing on the other side of the life you thought you'd live and discovering something still remains. Reginald told me something, Luella said after a while. He said, give Dorothy some quiet and solid walls. She'll figure out the rest herself. He believed in you. He always saw more in me than I saw in myself, I answered. That's not just seeing, that's love, the kind that plans ahead. Not everybody has somebody who loves them like that. When she left, I wrapped up in a patchwork quilt folded on the bedroom chair and slept more soundly than I had in months. The sounds of Savannah at night came through the open window, distant street noise, crickets, the occasional toll of church bells, and all of it sounded like rest. On the third day, Trayvon called. "Mama, where are you? Aunt Claudette says you never showed up." "I'm fine," I said, steady. "I found a place to stay." "What place? You just disappeared. You can't do that. Where are you?" "I can and I did. That is my right. If you're calling about something specific, say it." A pause. Then his tone shifted. "I was going through some of Daddy's things, found some notes, unfamiliar names, meetings with some kind of advisors, references to securing future assets. You know anything about that? Could be accounts or property that weren't disclosed at the reading." My heart skipped, but I kept my voice. "Your father handled the finances. Everything he intended to disclose, Mr. Browning made public. Anything else is a matter for the attorneys. If you have questions, take them there." "So you don't know anything? When are you coming back? We need to meet in person." "I don't know yet. I need some time. I'll be in touch." "Mama," his voice rose, "you're acting strange, left without telling anybody where you were going. People are asking questions. Do you understand how this looks?" I took a quiet breath, not anger, just clarity. Let them ask. I don't live to make things look right for other people anymore. Take care of yourself, Trayvon. A week later, I drove back to Atlanta, unannounced. I needed to see things for myself. The parking attendant in the building recognized me. The elevator ascended just as quickly. The apartment door was open. Inside, the space was gutted to the bones. Bare concrete floor, pipes sticking out of the walls, the smell of dust. Expensive tile samples were stacked in piles. Along one wall, a damp stain spread from where the main bathroom used to be. Trayvon came out of the far hallway in work clothes, tired and strung tight in a way I'd never seen on him. "Mama, the valet said you came up." "Wanted to see it myself," I said. We stood in that stripped-out room, and for a moment I saw in him the boy he used to be, not the polished adult, but the 12-year-old who once took apart the lawnmower to see how it worked and couldn't put it back together. What happened, Trayvon? He sat down on an overturned bucket, told me everything. There had been a commercial development deal, mixed use, high end. He'd staked his reputation on it, put in his own money, took out a loan against projected returns. Then the project got caught up in a city environmental review that found soil contamination. Investors pulled out. He was left holding obligations he couldn't cover. And on top of that, the renovation had uncovered problems nobody anticipated. Structural, electrical, the whole list. The money ran out, and the work was barely half done. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Pride, he said simply, and anger at the situation, at myself. At least that was the truth.
All right, I said, then hear me out on the terms. If you need my help, this isn't a check in an envelope. First, full transparency. Every account, every contract, every debt on the table. No gaps. Second, professional oversight. Any money coming from my side goes through an independent financial manager with spending limits and monthly reporting. Third, you do the inner work. A counselor, somebody who specializes in financial behavior and family dynamics, weekly, no exceptions. Fourth, you apologize to me, not in one sentence, for real, for that night, for those words, for the years of how you spoke to me when you thought it didn't matter. He was quiet. Somewhere in the wall, water was dripping. And what do I get? What you get is that I cover the critical cash shortfall. We stop the foreclosure process on this condo and stabilize it enough for a clean sale. And I'm going to strongly advise you to sell. You don't need to live in a showcase, Trayvon. The showcase is part of what got you here. Selling means admitting defeat. People will know. People already know, I said without raising my voice. Contractors talk. Banks talk. Word travels faster than a renovation gets finished. He rubbed his face with both hands, a gesture I recognized from when he was a little boy. This is a lot to take in all at once. There isn't much time, I said. Come down to Savannah tomorrow, 11 o'clock, and bring the documents. We'll sit down properly and work through everything in order. It's too loud here for a real conversation. He sat with that a moment, then gave a short nod. All right, tomorrow. He arrived right at 11 o'clock, dressed decently, holding a folder with documents, a flash drive, and a notebook. We sat down at the kitchen table where the morning lights streamed in through the windows. No performance. He laid it all out. The debts, the contractors, the bank notices, the exact size of the hole he was in. We worked through the morning, ate lunch in silence, went back to the numbers. That evening, I brought in a financial advisor and an attorney by conference call, and together we worked out a plan. My position was clear. I'd help, but every dollar would move through the manager. Independent oversight, strict limits, monthly reporting. The condo would go on the market, and Trayvon would see a therapist, weekly, no cancellations. And the apology, I said, that's not up for discussion. He looked at me across the table, and instead of the usual defiance, he simply said, I hear you. Those 3 words were the beginning of a long road, and it wasn't smooth. The first few weeks he pushed back, felt like he was being supervised, sent sharp messages in the middle of the night and deleted them by morning. But the reports came in on time. The payments ran on schedule. The apartment was sold in 2 months, fast enough to close the debts and clear the way forward. He did see a therapist, at first reluctantly, but he went. And gradually, on weekends when he came to Savannah, he started saying things out loud that I had been waiting to hear for years, that he was ashamed of that night, that he was working on learning to distinguish success from showmanship. I listened. Sometimes that was all that needed to be done. In the spring, he arrived with a small package wrapped in brown paper.
Found this when I was going through the last of Daddy's things, he said on the porch. I thought about keeping it, then I realized it's not mine. In the box, Reginald's gold cufflinks, the ones he wore to every church anniversary dinner for 30 years. Beneath them, a small velvet pouch, and inside it, my wedding ring. I had lost it in the chaos of the past 2 years and hadn't allowed myself to think about it. And under all of that, an envelope with my name on the front, signed in Reginald's handwriting. Trayvon opened the jewelry box. There was a receipt in the envelope from a jewelry shop on Auburn Avenue. The order was ready. I picked it up. Inside was a delicate band set with small diamonds and a single sapphire in the center. Subtle, precise, exactly the way Reginald did things. I slipped the new ring onto my finger beside my gold wedding band. The sapphire caught the morning light. Then Trayvon said something I didn't see coming. I've been offered a position, a small commercial deal, nonprofit developer. They're building affordable housing in Black neighborhoods that have been overlooked for decades. Green construction, resident involvement, real gardens in the courtyards. The salary isn't what it used to be, but it's the first thing in a long time that feels like something real. I want to take it. I studied him for a long moment. He wasn't performing, he was asking. Do what's true for you, not what looks good, what's true. He took the job. A month later, he called and said that the foreman on his first project had remarked, "A building is only as beautiful as its foundation, the part no one sees." And it was the first praise he had received from his mentor in many years. Marcus Weber and I quietly updated the appraisal. I kept the Mustang. I can't fully explain why. That car just calms you when you take the wheel. The other two, a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette and a 1970 Plymouth Barracuda, went to trusted collectors through proper channels, quietly, without fanfare. Part of the proceeds went to a financial literacy initiative, workshops for high school girls from underprivileged areas of Atlanta and for Black women over 50, how to read what you sign, how to protect what you build, how to understand your options before someone else makes decisions for you. The rest of the money would go into a trust for Trayvon's future children, if he has any. If not, it would go to a scholarship fund for young people pursuing a trade. Life in Savannah found its rhythm. Luella and I became those friends who arrive late in life and feel like something you've always been missing. I joined a reading circle at the Carnegie Library, mostly women my age, reading serious books and speaking exactly what they think. I planted garden beds along the back fence. I learned to run the house the way Reginald would have wanted, practically, confidently, without asking anyone's permission. Sometimes in the morning, before the city had fully awoken, I'd take the Mustang out and drive down Victory Drive to the riverfront. Lowered, the roof down if the weather allowed, the Savannah River wide and silver to my left. Not to show off, not to impress anyone, just because an open road and the wind clear your mind like nothing else. In October, Trevin came to visit me for the weekend. We sat on the back porch with coffee, watching the light move through the live oaks. He told me about work, about how at a community meeting in the neighborhood where they were building a house, residents said that for the first time in 40 years, someone had asked them what they needed and actually took their wishes into account. About how he is learning to frame and ask questions he doesn't already have answers to. Sometimes a sharp tone would break through, hard words slipping out. Each time I would look at him, and he understood my look. "Mom," he said after a quiet pause, "the words I said to you that night, I carry them with me every day. I was wrong, not just in what I said, but in who I had become. I'm sorry. I'm working on it." "I know," I said, "and I owe you something too. For too many years, I smoothed things over instead of speaking plainly. I tried to keep the peace instead of telling the truth. I let you grow up without enough correction. Now we're both doing better." After that, we sat in silence. Around us was a quiet that didn't need to be filled. Trevin stood up and, before leaving, hugged me the way he used to when he was little, tight, holding on for a long time. At the gate, he turned back. "Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for not just helping me, but making me rethink everything." "Take care of yourself," I said, "and read every contract before you sign it. Every one, always." He laughed, openly, the way I hadn't heard in years. He waved and drove away. I cleared the cups, walked through the house, closed the windows against the evening breeze, found my jacket on the hook by the door, picked up the Mustang's keys. The car was sitting in the little garage out back, patient as always. I backed it out slow and headed toward the river. The streets of Savannah in October at sunset, the moss burning amber, the squares still holding the warmth of the day. I drove without hurrying. My hands rested easy on the wheel. No triumph, no tragedy, just the road and the evening, and the right to choose my own direction. When to ease up, when to press on, when to simply stop and sit in the quiet and let the moment be enough. It is. It always will be.